Welcome to Just Asia, HRC-TV's weekly human rights program. These are the headlines. Indonesian president should order military to end virginity tests, says rights watchdog. Blogger sentenced to 7 years for reporting of Vietnam's devastating toxic spill. Attacks on journalists rising in Pakistan. Cambodian Prime Minister calls for shutdown of leading rights group. New human rights commissioners inaugurated in Indonesia. India's top court removes Hadiah from parental custody. One urgent appeal from Indonesia. Welcome to HRC-TV's Just Asia. I'm Annie Lin. This week, Just Asia begins with Indonesia, where female recruits for the police and military continue to face virginity tests. These tests were banned by the World Health Organization in 2014, saying they have no scientific basis. Human Rights Watch is calling on President Joko Widodo to order Indonesia's police chief and armed forces commander to immediately stop these tests. By ending the practice, the Indonesian government would be abiding by its international human rights obligations and honoring the goal of the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women on November 25th, the rights watchdog said. Virginity testing is a form of gender-based violence and is a widely discredited practice. Human Rights Watch first exposed the use of virginity tests by Indonesian security forces in 2014, but since then, the government has failed to take the necessary steps to prohibit the practice. Furthermore, the military and police are reluctant to reveal details of the tests to Indonesia's Legal Aid Group for Women and Children and the Commission on Violence Against Women, both of which have previously asked for clarification. Just Asia speaks to Mr. Andreas Harsano, an Indonesian researcher with Human Rights Watch, for further information.
This test has been going on since the 1960s, meaning that it's been more than 50 years now, that it has been used against female applicants for the armed forces and the police. They believe, the armed forces and the national police believe that they need to check the personality and mental of their female officers. Thus, they examine the hymen of female applicants. It's not scientific, but they believe that a woman hymen is like a clock from 0 to 6 below. If the hymen is torn until 6, they believe that the woman has active sexual life. If it is torn between 1 or 3 o'clock or 11 o'clock, then the hymen is torn because of accident, riding a horse, falling down from a bicycle or whatever. The phone of the applicant has a box in which the hymen is going to be marked as torn or intact. It means that a torn hymen does not necessarily make the applicant scrapped from the selection process, but they check the hymen. It is obviously traumatizing. I talked with dozens of women who took the test. It is abusive, it is discriminatory, and it is unscientific. But that's what the top general at the armed forces and the police believe.
And how are women's group and rights activists addressing the issue?
They have been protesting against this test for decades, ranging from small press local protests up to protests at the national parliament, protests by active policewomen themselves. Although I have never heard active military women protested against the test. It also involves right now some cabinet members, including the Minister of Health, the Minister of Women Empowerment, the Minister of Home Affairs. It also involves female politicians at the parliament, the national parliament. Some political parties also raise questions about this test, but the test is still going on.
Why the security forces are carrying on with a practice that is denounced by Ulama Council and most of Indonesian society?
I talked with many generals, those who oppose the test and those who are against the test, secretly of course. But those who advocate for the test, I have to say either they are ignorant or they are arrogant. They are ignorant because they do not know that it is unscientific, that you cannot verify someone's virginity, a woman's virginity, just based on her hymen. Those who know, but they don't want to stop it because of many non-medical considerations. That's why I think they're arrogant. So they're either ignorant or arrogant. These two organizations are very top-down organizations. Active policewomen, active army women, they cannot oppose the policies, regulation within their respective organization. This military especially is running their organization as if it is their own.
Moving to Vietnam, a 22-year-old blogger was sentenced to 7 years in prison on Monday for posting reports on one of the country's largest environmental disasters. After a brief closed trial in Ha Tinh province, blogger Nguyen Van Hoa was found guilty of spreading anti-state propaganda referring to his videos and reports on a toxic spill that devastated the coast of central Vietnam. The spill occurred when a new Taiwan-owned steel factory flushed cyanide and other chemicals through its waste pipeline, killing marine life and sickening people along a 120-mile stretch of coastline. The government initially provided little information about the spill, even withholding the names of the toxic agents from poisoning victims and their doctors. The toxic spill deprived coastal fishermen of their livelihoods and set off major protests along the central coast. Earlier in June, a court sentenced another well-known blogger, Mother Mushroom, to 10 years in prison, also for blogging about the fish kill. In Pakistan, the past couple of months have seen a spike in attacks on journalists and media houses. During the recent 22-day sit-in by a fundamentalist Muslim group in Islamabad, 3 journalists were severely injured, while several media houses were attacked and their DSNG vans, which record videos on site, were burned. On November 25th, protesters at the Faizabad Islamabad sit-in beat up 2 photojournalists and tried to snatch their cameras as they were taking images of an attack on the police. The Pakistan Broadcasters Association has condemned these attacks in various parts of the country. Pakistan is routinely ranked as one of the most dangerous countries for journalists, while local reporters describe Balochistan as being the most dangerous place to be a journalist in Pakistan. After the banned separatist group Balochistan Liberation Front issued an angry ultimatum to local journalists, more than a dozen towns and cities in the province are without newspapers. Journalists are too scared to produce them, and vendors are too afraid to sell them. The doors of the local press clubs have been locked for the past 3 months. Meanwhile, the Pakistan government on November 25th ordered all news channels in the country to close down for 27 hours and banned all social media to keep people in the dark from the latest developments crippling the whole country. Next, Cambodian Prime Minister Hun Sen has called for the Interior Ministry to investigate and shut the Cambodian Center for Human Rights, a leading human rights group. In a speech to garment workers on November 26, Hun Sen said the Center for Human Rights in Phnom Penh must be closed down because this one does what is told by foreigners. Opposition leader Kem Sokha established the center in 2002. The center has worked on issues including human rights education, rural land rights, and the rights of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people. It has also provided free legal aid to victims of human rights violations. In recent months, the Cambodian government has engaged in an intensified crackdown against the political opposition, the independent media, and human rights groups. On September 3rd, the government arrested Kem Sokha on dubious charges of treason, and on November 16th, the Supreme Court dissolved the opposition Cambodian National Rescue Party and imposed political bans of 5 years on 118 of its members. Earlier, it has closed down radio stations and the independent English language Cambodia Daily. The dissolution of the CNRP means that there will be no significant opposition party to challenge Hun Sen's ruling CPP in the 2018 elections. In Indonesia, new commissioners have been recently appointed to the National Commission on Human Rights. The parliament selected 7 commissioners from over 60 candidates for the next 5-year period of 2017 to 2021. These commissioners will face a challenge in dealing with the Attorney General's office, where the Commission's inquiry report into past human rights abuses has been sitting for the past 10 years. Indonesia's Attorney General has refused to bring past human rights abuse cases to the Human Rights Court. Due to this, the previous commissioners preferred to bring past abuse cases to non-judicial mechanisms such as the reconciliation mechanism. This triggered massive public protest because the National Commission on Human Rights is mandated by law to investigate human rights cases and ensure that the cases are taken to the Human Rights Court by the Attorney General. The Commission also failed to settle current human rights abuse cases such as the Panyai case in Papua and the brutal shooting in Bima West, Nusa Tenggara. According to Indonesian activists, it is high time the government amends the law and strengthens the role and function of the Commission. Besides investigation, the Commission should have a prosecutorial role, enabling it to directly present to the Human Rights Court like Indonesia's Corruption Eradication Commission. In India, the Supreme Court finally listened to what Hadia, the young woman caught up in a legal storm, had to say about her conversion to Islam and her marriage to a Muslim. Previously known as Akila, Hadia had spent the last few months in house arrest at her parents' home. After speaking to Hadia, the Supreme Court removed her from her parents' custody and said she could resume her medical studies in Tamil Nadu under the guardianship of a college dean. While Hadia's father alleges that she was forced into conversion and marriage, Hadia maintains that she has always acted of her own free will. The next hearing in the case will be held in late January 2018. Finally, the Urgent Appeals Weekly features one case from Indonesia. Mr. Saldi Hamanto, a journalist in Timika, Papua, was attacked by the police after he criticized on Facebook the police handling of security at an entertainment show he attended. That is all for this episode of Just Asia. For more on these and other issues, please visit www.humanrights.asia or www.alrc.asia/justasia. Thank you for watching and see you next week.